What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Ryan, and today we're going to be looking at one of my favorite decks from set 4, but updated for set 5 now that all the cards are out, and we've had some good testing over the last 2 weeks. We finally have ironed out what feels the best right now, at least for me, when playing a Sapphire Steel deck, especially when one of the most popular decks in the format is that Amber Steel Song with your Ursulas singing 4-cost songs on turn 2. You've got your Prince Naveen's singing 6-cost songs for free when they come out. But I think this Sapphire Steel deck really puts it to the test and has felt really good in that particular matchup. And then with the cards that it's gotten from Shimmering Skies, I actually think we're in a better place now against things like red purple, while still being able to deal with aggro decks if we come across them. Before we get started, I just wanted to say happy launch day for Shimmering Skies. Today is the official retail launch of the set, and I had planned on opening up some packs to celebrate them now being in Target and Best Buy, but when I went there, they actually had no product, which is really weird. It's all available on the website. I got a Bell playmat coming in the mail in a couple days. But has anyone else experienced this, where the big box stores actually aren't getting the product on release day? They don't seem to have an issue stocking the product afterwards, as there's still plenty of Ursula's Return and plenty of Inklands available. But this is the second time in a row I've gone to these stores looking for a TCG on release day, and they're nowhere to be found. All right, with that out of the way, let's go and take a look at the deck list. We are running with 45 inkable cards, 15 non-inkable, 33 characters, 11 songs, 3 actions, and then 13 items. So we are a little susceptible to Daisy Duck, but if we know we're playing into that matchup, we can adjust our opening hand to make sure that we're not losing our very important items to the 50-50 card draw that Daisy's giving us. But starting off with our characters, our first character is coming in at the 2-cost slot. It's going to be the Tipo card from Shimmering Skies, allowing us to basically have the ability of Fishbone Quilt in a playable character. When you play this character, you may put a card from your hand into your inkwell face down and exerted. We can't use that ink till the next turn, so a little bit worse than Fishbone, but getting it out a turn earlier allows us to have a really nice line if we get this in our opening hand. Now our other turn 2 play, if we don't have a Tipo, and maybe if we don't have a Hero, we're going to want to look to play a Smee instead. This is going to allow us to really answer our opponent's characters very early on, or quest for a bit right off the get-go, and then we can use that popsicle hopefully that we had on turn 1 to heal him once he's in danger of removing himself. He can also be used to sing One Jump Ahead, which we'll be using later in the deck. All in all, Smee is one of the best cards in Steel, getting you that 3/3 stat line and questing for 2 for only 2 cost. And since we do have some healing in our deck with those popsicles, it's not the end of the world, and we're hopefully able to keep him around for quite a bit long. Now the new card that I'm sure you're familiar with by this point, it's going to be Pete, Games Referee. He's a new Steel card that came out in Shimmering Skies, and when you play him, you actually lock your opponent from playing any actions or songs until your next turn, meaning we can prevent our side of the board from being Be Prepared, allowing us to pretty safely go wide, unless they're playing like the Scar that can reset every time it takes something out. You'll be pretty safe going wide, playing Pete, and then closing out games a lot faster and a lot safer than we have previously. All right, and then next up at the 4-cost slot, one of our 2 win conditions and also a little bit of sneaky ramp is going to be the Belle Strange But Special. We'll run 2 copies of this. During your turn, you can put an extra card from your hand into your inkwell, as well as once you have 10 or more ink, she actually quests for 5, meaning that with a lucky dime, she can get you 10 lore in a single turn, which is a super powerful ability to be able to just play. She's a bit susceptible to removal, especially from like Ruby, or maybe a Steel player that has Along Came Zeus. But if you can get her out with a lucky dime, you can guarantee that 5 lore, and if she's able to quest, that's 10 in 1 turn, which is amazing to get. All right, and then up next, a card that is a staple for all Sapphire decks. It's going to be Hiram, Toymaker. When you play this character and whenever he quests, you can banish one of your items to draw 2 cards, especially since we're playing no wheel. We're not playing Whole New World. Having the card draw from Hiram is going to be very, very important. And one of our opening lines is going to be getting him out on turn 3, which allows us to get those extra cards even sooner. Now Hiram, with only 1 strength, is very susceptible to Ruby's removal, especially like the Sisu card or Brawl. You can get it out the field right away, but still being able to draw 2 cards for the 4 cost and have the upside of doing that turn after turn is just too good not to include into the deck. Another card that we've used quite often in our Sapphire Steel decks is going to be the 5-cost Cogsworth. He has Ward himself, but he gives all your other characters resist 1, making it so you have a lot of resistances against Steel and their board wipe abilities. This completely cancels out Tinkerbell's interplay effect, as well as makes songs like Grab Your Swords way less effective, now dealing only 1 damage to everyone. And then in general, it just changes the math that your opponent needs. And when they're playing a lot of songs and doing a lot of chip damage, a card like Cogsworth is essential to include in any of these decks. All right, and now a card that I finally pulled the trigger on and got some copies of myself. It's going to be 3 copies of Beast Tragic Hero. This is one of the most expensive legendaries in all of Lorcana, coming in right now at around $40 a piece. So I do understand that it might be out of the budget for a lot of people. And if that's the case, I would look into maybe switching this out with potentially like Merlin's Carpet Bag, allowing you to recycle those popsicles and fortispheres to supplement some of that card draw. But Beast, being a character himself, is one of the best ways to get that passive extra card draw every single turn. And then as long as he doesn't have damage on him, you're going to be able to keep drawing that extra card every turn. And once he does get damage, he's going to be used to take out locations in one go, any big blockers our opponent has in one go. And he also quests for a sneaky 2, making him one of the best cards and well worth the price to include him in one of these decks. All right, and now another new card that came out in Shimmering Skies. It's going to be the Cusco Selfish Emperor. Now this card in particular could be swapped out with the new Simba that does a similar effect. Basically, this is our removal for items and locations. With Cusco, you're going to put them into your opponent's inkwell, meaning it'll lock down lucky dimes from being accessed for the rest of the game, which makes me tend to favor Cusco just a little bit more, because now we've guaranteed that our opponent is not going to have access to that item unless they're playing like the new Mufasa and get it randomly, and they're going to have to really dig deep to go find the other one. But you could easily switch this out to the new Simba card to just get it into the discard pile. It does the same thing with locations, and it doesn't give your opponent that extra ink. This card also has a secondary ability of giving your characters resist +1 until the start of your next turn, and it doesn't require Cusco to be exerted in order to use it. So if you find yourself with a bunch of ink and nothing else to play, you could use this ability multiple times and then have complete safety when your characters are attacking into opposing characters, or if they're getting attacked. All right, and then next up, the main way that we deal with aggro in a steel deck is going to be the Tinkerbell Giant Fairy card. When you play this character, deal 1 damage to each opposing character, and whenever she takes out a character, you can deal 2 to any character that you can select, meaning you're going to be able to do 2-for-1 trades, especially since she has a lot of toughness herself. Usually against those aggro decks, not only are you doing somewhat of a board wipe when she enters, but you're going to keep being able to take out multiple cards every turn, as long as Tinkerbell can attack at least 1. This card is so strong that I've actually even seen some people, including the new King Arthur, into these decks as well, so that you can give Tinkerbell the ability to challenge ready characters as well, which means you don't even need to wait till they're exerted, and you can just take 2 things out as soon as they've played them, which is something also that you can play around with when building your own Sapphire Steel deck. But instead, we actually opted to include our one of to be the new Mufasa card, Ruler of Pride Rock. If you can get this card to survive its drying turn, being able to completely reset your inkwell after he quests, allowing you to dump your entire hand if you want, is pretty much game over, especially with him questing for 4 and having a huge amount of willpower. And he's over the threshold for like Madame Medusa, unless he gets ice blocked or something like that. So if this card survives, it's pretty much game over, which is why it's a one of in our deck. Another one of that I like to see included sometimes is the new Sheriff of Nottingham. If you're able to play a lot of items, you can actually get that card out for very, very cheap. And he also quests for 4, meaning if you're looking for a little bit more aggressive, looking to win a little bit earlier, all you have to do is just keep playing items. Maybe you get lucky and you can combo a popsicle into a fortisphere, do that a couple times, and then your Sheriff of Nottingham on like turn 4 could be 4 ink, and then you can just get big quests out of the way. With Mufasa, we're kind of playing towards the late game, which puts us at risk for especially like Ruby's removal. But I've included this card here just because it's the most iconic card from the set, completely changing how we think about the inkwell and the rules of the game. But something that's not changing the rules of the game at all, because we've seen it now since set 1, is going to be the Tamatoa card. When you play him and whenever he quests, you can return an item from your discard to your hand, and he gets an extra lore for each item that you have in play. This is your classic Sapphire win condition. We'll run 3 copies of him in the deck as well, meaning that if we get him pretty early into the game, he's okay to be inked, and then we're just looking to play him mid to late game to not only get items back, maybe we had to get rid of a lucky dime early in the game, we bring that back, and now we can really set up our win condition in 1 or 2 turns with either a Tamatoa or, like I said earlier, with that bell. We are also including for our actions 3 copies of Fire the Cannons, just to have a little bit extra early game removal, really trying to keep those hyper aggro decks that win in 4 or 5 turns in check. Now this doesn't answer something like Daisy, because Daisy has 4 health, but you can use this to take out most early game characters, especially if we're comboing it with that Tinkerbell or with some of our songs. You'll be able to take out a lot of things very easily for just the 1 cost. Alright, and now moving on to songs, we're going to be running 3 copies of One Jump Ahead, trying to get this in our opening hand. So ideally you would want to go up to 4 copies, but I think we need all that extra removal, so I bumped it down to 3 here. But if we can get one of our 2 cost characters to sing this for the extra ramp, that's going to be really, really good. The only time that I really hold off on singing this card as soon as possible is if we haven't drawn our board wipe, either character or song yet. The worst thing in the world is to have it be next on top of your deck and it goes right into your inkwell, and you're none the wiser because you don't even get to see what it is. So typically, if I don't have any board wipe in my hand, I will hold off maybe a turn or 2 just to see if we can pull it into our hand. Otherwise, if we already have that Tinkerbell, or if we already have a Grab Your Sword, sing away, go quickly to that 5, to that 6 ink, and then hopefully we can steamroll from there. Now moving on to our removal songs. First up is going to be the 3 cost, and then Along Came Zeus, dealing 5 damage to a character or location. In a pinch, this can be used to get rid of a Daisy in one go, and we can sing it as early as turn 4 if we get that Hiram out. Although we really want to be questing with Hiram, in a pinch this could be useful. And then late game, if our opponent's played like a Queen's Castle, or we need to combo damage together with one of our characters, this is great to just do 5 damage to a single source, and very useful to have 3 copies of it in the deck. Now if there's a specific character that we need to get rid of, as soon as we get to 5 ink, our characters, like our Cogsworth, like our Beast, can actually sing Let It Go, allowing us to put a character into either inkwell. I've actually used this in the past. If a Smee is going to die on my turn, we can actually play Let It Go and put it into our inkwell instead. I like the ability to either use it for your opposing characters or your characters, but most of the time we're going to use this to get rid of big game threats like your Tamatoas, like your Bells. I also think Hiram is a great target for this, shutting down the card draw and preventing it from being brought back from the discard. So we've included 2 copies of this. It's very useful in most situations, even if we are giving away an ink to our opponent. We'd rather them have the extra ink on their next turn than a character that's going to keep destroying our board state. And I think 2 has been the general consensus for most Sapphire Steel players that I've talked with. Another card that we pretty much can all agree on is 3 copies of Grab Your Sword. Just a great board-wide damage song that we can sing very early with our ramp, and especially in those aggro matchups, the quicker that we can guarantee this into our hand and then play it to reset the board, the better. And then usually after this is played, we can start setting it up, giving ourselves the tempo, and really just steamrolling the game, especially since we're going to be able to outpace most other decks in the format. And then last but not least, the bread and butter for the Sapphire Steel is going to be all the items that we include. Now, we're including 4 copies of the standard Popsicles and the Fortispheres. These items for 1 cost, just allowing you to draw a card, but at the same time they both do have additional benefits. Popsicles allowing you to heal one of your characters, so keeping your Smees on the field for a little bit longer. Maybe if your Beast has a little bit of damage, you can heal it and then turn that card draw back on again. Or for Fortisphere, we can actually protect some of our characters from getting surprise rushed, or we can force trades to be beneficial for us. Now our ramp for this version of the deck, I've gone with the Great Stone Dragon, which is a little bit slower than the Fishbone Quill. We only play 3 copies of Great Stone Dragon, but I think in the long run, Great Stone Dragon is going to give us way more ink than Fishbone, and doesn't rely on us losing all those extra cards in our hand. For Great Stone Dragon, once you're able to ready it, you can exert it to put a character from your discard into your inkwell, face down and exerted, and then you can use it on the next turn. Or if you have a Mufasa on the field and you've used this ability, the ink comes in exerted, Mufasa quests, and now that ink is available to use as well. I love cards like this for that Mufasa, so things like your Tipo, things like your One Jump Ahead, where traditionally they come in exerted and you're not able to use it until your next turn. if Mufasa quests and it all resets. Now we're able to use all that extra ink on this turn, which is why I said that Mufasa card, if you can get it to quest just even once, the game should be over, because we have just so many tools at our disposal to end it quickly. And speaking of ending the game quickly, it's going to be the 2 copies of Lucky Dime, allowing us to target one of our characters, getting lore equal to their lore. With the addition of Mufasa, we're able to combo this pretty well with playing characters, questing with Mufasa, playing the Lucky Dime, and then also tapping the Lucky Dime, meaning we don't need to go up to 13 ink now in order to do the Bell Lucky Dime combo. And if we get that high, we can actually just use it for things like the Cusco ability, things like our Fortisphere, paying that 1 extra to give things bodyguard. And as we know, this card is just amazing at just completely sealing the deal, ending the game almost out of nowhere. And if you're playing against Blue Steel, you hate to see it, but we love to see it here. And that does it for our deck list that we're running with right now for Sapphire Steel. I'm gonna go ahead and load up a couple mulligans here on Dreamborn, just to show off kind of what we're thinking for the first couple turns. Ideally, what I'm typically looking for is turn 1. Obviously, we want to get a Popsicle or Fortisphere onto the field, preferring the Popsicle just because it has that extra utility of healing our Smee if we do have to play the Smee. And then turn 2, we are going to be looking really to either play Tipo into Hiram or Smee into Greystone Dragon. It just depends which of the 2 variations that we get in the opening hand. So let's show that now. All right, so here we have the mulligan all loaded up, ready to go. We've got a Popsicle, we've got Greystone Dragon. So I think we're gonna try and go for the Popsicle into Smee, into Greystone Dragon, and let's get rid of everything else and see what we get. We don't hit the Smee, but we hit the 1 jump ahead, which will actually allow us to get pretty far ahead nice and early, meaning we can actually turn 1 Popsicle and then turn 2 1 jump ahead. We could also draw into the Smee via the Popsicle or via our first draw. Since we have Tinkerbell and Let It Go in our hand, we do have access to removal, so we want to get to that removal as soon as possible. So I actually don't see a problem in playing our 1 jump ahead cards nice and early to get ahead in the ink total, and then play our Tinkerbell or play Let It Go, depending on what type of deck we're facing. Let's do another one, and we'll see if we can get that Tipo line all set up. All right, so now here's the next mulligan. We've drawn into Tipo, which is really good. And in this case, we actually have a Bell and a Beast, which could set up some additional card draw down the line. Since we do have the Tipo, I don't think we need the Bell. We'll get rid of the Pete and the Lucky Dime and the Cogsworth, and we'll get rid of a Beast as well. Trying really to hit a 1 drop here because we don't have one currently. And then in a perfect world, if we can get a Hiram as well, even better. So then we can go turn 1 Popsicle, turn 2 Tipo, Hiram into Beast. Okay, so we don't hit the Hiram, but turn 1 we'd be able to play the Popsicle, play the Tipo on turn 2, and then turn 3 we can actually play either another Tipo, or if we've drawn into a Hiram, that's the preferred play. Turn 4, getting that Beast down. Now he has access to sing Let It Go or Grab Your Sword to get that board. Now Beast is going to be drawing cards for us every turn, so it's not the end of the world that we didn't get a Hiram. All right, now let's move over into Ink Table, and I'll show you just a sim matchup against Steel Song so you can see how this plays out against the most popular meta deck right now. All right, so we have Ink Table all loaded up for us now, and here's our opening hand waiting to mulligan still. We get the Popsicle, we get the Tipo, and we have a Beast in our hand. So just like we saw in the last mulligan we did over on Dreamborn, we're gonna keep all those characters. I might even keep the Tinkerbell just so we guarantee we have removal in our hand. And let's see if we can pull that Hiram. We don't pull Hiram, we just pull a bunch of Popsicles and a Fortisphere, which is good because now we have ink to play around with. We'll ink the Fortisphere, play one of the Popsicles, draw the card, and then we can just pass. And we pull a Fire the Cannons, which will allow us to, answer this Queen right away if we wanted to. I am a little scared of a shift into a big Queen here in particular. So instead of playing the Tipo right away, I might just go ahead and ink a Let It Go and then play Fire the Cannons, getting rid of the Queen, and then we can play the Popsicle to draw an extra card, and we can pass. Since we don't have a turn 3 Hiram in our hand, now we're just 1 delayed. We can play the Tipo, then next turn we can play the beast. So let's go ahead, we'll ink the Tamatoa, and then we can play the Tipo. Putting a popsicle into our inkwell. We could have also inked like our Cusco and then played the popsicle. Once we get to 6 ink, we'll be able to use that. They play another Smee and another Queen. Smees are going to start taking damage every turn when they quest. We get another Tipo, but I think I would just want to ink him here, and then 4/5 we'll play the beast. Hopefully they're not able to sing anything with damage or play a Naveen, so we can get that card draw with beast. We're just going to quest with Tipo, force them to challenge into us, especially with those Smees. You want to get the questing done while you have them on the board, and once they both get to 2 damage, the Tinkerbell will just take them out, or he can take them out and heal him, and I look like an idiot. Play the Rapunzel. They get a bunch of card draw off the Smee. They don't damage our beast, which is very good. So now we can do a classic steal play of inking something. So inking the Cusco, playing the Tinkerbell, and then singing the grab your sword with the beast. And we've just cleared most of the board there with just the 1 card. They're going to sing Let the Storm Rage On with Rapunzel, play another Rapunzel to get some healing, more card draw. Now we get 1 jump ahead and we have Mufasa. We'll just play both the 1 jumps ahead just so we get to 8. Then next turn we can play that Mufasa. I want the card draw, so I really don't want to challenge with the beast, but at the same time I do also want to kind of clean up the board state. So if we challenge with the beast, we can use a popsicle to heal him. Challenge with Tinkerbell. Get some damage onto the ready Rapunzel, and then use our other popsicle to heal up that Tinkerbell. It'll still die to things like, and then along came Zeus, which of course then they just play it. So we've wasted our popsicle there in that situation. They have another Rapunzel in hand to get a little bit extra card draw. And now we have a decision to make. We have access to Tinkerbell and Mufasa. We don't have a lot of card draw at the moment, and Tinkerbell won't actually be taking anything out here. What we'll need to do is just challenge our beast into Rapunzel, ink the Tinkerbell, fire the cannons to get rid of the 1 Rapunzel, and then we will play the Mufasa to see what we get back. And we get back a Fortisphere and a Tinkerbell. So that's the one good thing about Mufasa mixed with the items going into the inkwell. We're able to get them back, potentially. And now you see they've already put 7 damage. Now 9 damage onto Mufasa, getting rid of him in 1 turn. He has the highest priority target in our deck, so that's kind of unfortunate to see. Now Beast has a bunch of attack because he has damage on him, so he'll take out the Rapunzel. We can play the Fortisphere to see what kind of card we get. And we get a Bell, which is also pretty nice to see. I don't want them really singing too much, but I also want to get to a pretty good board state. So I think all I'm going to do is just let it go the Prince Naveen, and then we'll ink the Tinkerbell and we'll pass. A Cinderella Stout-Hearted comes down. Wish I still had that Let It Go. But what we can do is we can play both the Smee and the Bell. And I actually, since they have things like Let the Storm Rage On and whatnot, we'll just quest with the Beast. And then most likely that Cinderella will just take it out. And they actually play another Cinderella, swinging the board state into even more of their favor. We don't have access to the other Let It Go because of the other one going into the inkwell earlier in the game. They leave the beast on the field, which is nice. So now beast can actually just attack into the Cinderella, getting rid of that one. We can play the Hiram. Finally saw a Hiram in this game. We can play another Fortis Sphere, get another card draw. Smee can sing one jump ahead. And as much as I want to sing along King Zeus, it's not going to get rid of the Cinderella, and they're not in danger of winning the game. So I might just pass it here. Although if they sing, they can attack Bell anyway. Let's just sing it. We'll make them challenge into the Bell. It is a free trade for them, as they grab your sword to get rid of the Smee. Instead, they just quest, going a bit for the win, and they'll pass to us. We get another Along Came Zeus, so we can sing that again. Get rid of the Cinderella, quest with the Hiram to get some card draw. And now finally, we get both a Cogsworth and a Bell onto the board, giving us a little bit extra protection. A big Queen comes down, a big Cinderella comes down, and now we just need an ink here, which we get. So I could ink the Tamatoa, and that'll put us at 10, 12, 13, or I can play the Tamatoa and get a Popsicle. And we gotta hope that we get, well, we can quest with the Hiram too. So we'll just do that, play the Popsicle, draw the card, we get another Tamatoa, so now we can ink again, still quest with those bells. Quest with the Hiram, get a little bit extra cards. We'll ink again, so we'll ink that Cusco. Play the Fortis Sphere. Then I really don't need to ink that Smee, but might as well. All right, so they'll need to take out both bells, and then just to guarantee our win, we'll go ahead and quest with the Cogsworth as well. Still haven't seen a lucky dime since the Mulligan. They're going to take out a Bell with the Cindy, play a Whole New World, give us 7 new cards, and now we have that extra ink. So I'm pretty happy we did that. We see the lucky dime. But they're not able to answer both bells, and we're just able to actually finish out the game without a lucky dime. That was a bit of an awkward game. I've misplayed here and there. So let's give it one more try. And let's see if we can repeat and have a little bit better performance from our end. All right, so starting off, we actually have a pretty good hand. For the Mulligan, we've got Popsicle, Tipo, one jump ahead. And then we even have a Cogsworth. Since if we were playing in a tournament scenario, we know we're playing against Steel Song, I would probably opt to keep Cogsworth just to get that resist online as soon as possible. Let's see if we can draw into a Hiram. We don't, but we do get Great Stone Dragon. We can ink the Tamatoa, and we'll play the Popsicle, drawing into another Tamatoa. And there's our Hiram. The only thing that we have to hope for now is that they don't have a big Queen into a Whole New World. Either way though, I think we're just going to ink probably the Great Stone Dragon in this case, and play Tipo. Let's put Tamatoa into the inkwell, and we'll pass. All right, so let's see. They do have the big Queen. Do they have the Whole New World? They don't. They just quest with the Queen, which is perfectly fine. So now we can actually just ink. Let's ink the Let It Go, and then we can play the Hiram, getting rid of that Popsicle. I'll sing the one jump ahead, and then we can pass. We have a Fortis Sphere for our next turn. We get some additional card draw. We also can play the Cogsworth And now we can actually get rid of the queen with the fire the cannons. So let's start off by doing that. I will ink a let it go. And then I think what I want to do, let's Fortisphere to get some cards. We see our last Tamatoa of the deck. So now if we get a whole new world, we are in big trouble. Let's quest with Hiram. Get rid of the Fortisphere to draw 2. Now we're just going to play a Smee of our own, and we'll pass it back to them. They play another Smee as well. They're going to just quest with their Smee, and Cinderella quest as well. So they don't have any songs, it looks like, in their hand, which is a bit lucky of us. We can ink one of our Cogsworths, play a Cogsworth, quest our Smee, and now that we don't have any items in our hand, we can actually just go ahead and sing Along Came Zeus. I'm going to get rid of probably one of the Smees. Yeah, let's get rid of one of the Smees, just to prevent them from getting too far ahead in the lore. We have the Cogsworth resist now to protect our Smee per turn. And now I wish I kind of held on to it because they played a Daisy. They also play a part of your world very early to get a Smee back. So that Along Came Zeus ended up being pretty big waste for us, but now we can get our Lucky Dime or our Tamatoa out. We don't hit the ink, so unfortunately we are going to just play the Lucky Dime. And then let's challenge into that Smee, preventing Smee from getting too much lore onto the board. I could have just quested and got an extra 2 cards, but I think as long as we get this Tamatoa out, we can start, recycling our Fortispheres, our Popsicles. What else do we want to do? I think we just send Smee and Cogsworth into the Cinderellas, and then we'll pass. We are way ahead on ink total because of all of our ramp. And unless they have a whole new world, they don't have a lot of ways to answer us. We draw into a Hiram, a Naveen with nothing in hand, so no free songs. We get a song. I think instead, let's ink that Hiram. Let's play the Tamatoa, get back a Popsicle, and then we can sing one jump ahead with our Smee. We will quest with Hiram to get rid of the Lucky Dime. We draw into our other Lucky Dime, which is really good. We actually get another one jump ahead. But they are pretty close to their lore total, so I want to get rid of at least one of their lore threats. They'll still get the 16 on this next turn if they just quest. And a Pete comes down, so we can't play any actions. Can't play one jump, can't play fire the cannons. And now we get to answer this board state with a beast coming into our hand because of Daisy. And we get a Hiram. We can still play items though. So we can still play the Lucky Dime. We can ink the Hiram. Play a Popsicle to draw an extra card. Use our Lucky Dime for that Tamatoa. Quest with the Tamatoa. Let's pull up another Lucky Dime so that we end the game next turn if we survive this. And then in order to survive this, we need to figure out a way to keep them from getting 4, which for us is going to mean, I think we need to heal the Cogsworth. We can send Smee into Naveen. Does this change the math at all? So next turn we'll be able to get 2 items. That'll be 3. Heal quest, get us to 13. Lucky Dime will get us to 16. And then this Lucky Dime will get us to 19. We do have Popsicles and Fortispheres in our discard, so we shouldn't need to quest at all. Honestly, I might just pass so they have less things to attack into. They play a Prince Naveen, meaning they're going to get to 19 ink this turn, or 19 lore this turn. Then we can play the Lucky Dime, quest with the Tamatoa, grab a Popsicle, play the Popsicle, and then Lucky Dime the Tamatoa, quest with Cogsworth and Quest with Smee to catch up and overtake them at the end of the game. Like I said, this deck is very good against the most popular deck, Steel Song, right now in set 5 meta, and now also performs very well into things like Ruby Sapphire, Ruby Amethyst, as well as can hold its own against Hyper Aggro if we get the correct opening hand. Let me know what you guys thought of this deck profile. Now that the set is live, we were able to perfect it just a little bit more than our earlier video. Thank you guys for watching and for all the support. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. We're quickly on our way to 1,000 subs. We're going to be giving away a D23 collector set once we get there. And if you subscribed already, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I can't wait to hopefully make more content that you're interested in. Let me know what types of decks you want to see me build next. Now that I've actually built most of the decks in paper, we can start doing some live game content as well. So really excited to get that onto the channel starting next week. But that does it all for this video. Thanks again for watching. Have a great rest of your day, a great weekend, and I'll see you guys next time. See ya.